Hi, I'm Spencer Johnson, and I'm covering Chapter 31, Advanced Organizer, from 50 Strategies for Teaching English Language Learners. Today, I want to go over fractions and how their operations are similar to radicals or square roots. All right. First off, what is this fraction? Is what type of fraction? A proper fraction, improper fraction, or mixed number? It is a proper fraction. 7/8 is a proper fraction, and it is in a simplified form, whereas 14/16 is unreduced. Fractions have proper forms where 8 cannot go into 7 any more than it already is. Radicals also have proper forms. Radicals, like the square root of 5 here, cannot be rewritten any more simply than they currently are. Nothing multiplies by itself to give us 5. Just like 7/8 has a improper form, we could say square root of 5 has an improper form, the square root of 20 over 2. But I wouldn't worry about that today. I would focus on this being an improper, I'd focus on the square root of 5 being sort of the proper form. Any number that can't be simplified anymore, like 7/8 or the square root of 5, is in what I'd consider a proper form. Some more examples of a proper form for radicals is the square root of 26. Nothing multiplies by itself to make 26. So we'd say the square root of 26 is a proper form where it's as simplified as it can be. Now, since fractions and radicals both have proper forms, we could also say they both have improper forms. I'm going to give a couple examples. 6/3 is a improper fraction because the numerator is more than the denominator. We can reduce that to 2. An example of a improper radical or improper square root form would be the square root of 9. It's technically in a radical, but we can rewrite it as something a little bit nicer. We can write the square root of 9 as just being 3. We can say 3 and the square root of 9 are the same value, just like 6/3 and 2 are the same value. But we wouldn't generally write 6/3 and square root of 9 as our answers. We'd generally write 2 or 3. Another example of an improper fraction is 5/3. I can break up 5/3 as 1 and 2/3, a whole number and the 2/3 part that we have left over. Just as I can break up 5/3 into a whole number and the remaining fraction, 2/3, I can break up 5/3 into the 1 and the remaining fraction, 2/3. I can do something similar with the square root of 12. The square root of 12 can be split up in a couple steps into the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. We split it up into two radicals, a proper radical, square root of 3, and an improper radical, the square root of 4, which we could rewrite as 2. we'd say our answer is 2 times the square root of 3. This would be rewriting the square root of 12. Mixed numbers are 5 and 1/3. We've got a whole number part, the 5, and the fractional part, 1/3. We'd say it's 5 plus 1/3. We can see that as 5 and 1/3. We just write them adjacent to each other. If I got a whole number part and I'm adding a fraction to it, I just write it as 5 and 1/3 with the 5 and the 1/3 right next to each other. I get rid of the addition sign and just stick them next to each other. We do a similar thing for radicals, but not for addition. We do that for multiplication. Here I've got 15 times the square root of 3, or 15 square root 3. We can imagine 15 square root of 3. 15 square root of 3 is another form of our proper, sort of a mixed radical, or a proper radical and a whole number being multiplied together. We could see it in this form, 5 times the square root of 27, where we have a whole number, the 5, being multiplied by the square root of 27. The square root of 27 is not a proper radical, though. We can simplify that similar to how we simplify the square root of 12. We can split 5 square root of 27, 5 times the square root of 27, into 5 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 3. Because the square root of 27 is being split into, square root of 27 is the same as the square root of 9 times the square root of 3. The insides of my radicals can multiply to make the inside of another radical. So our 5 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 3 is a good step towards rewriting it. Now, radical 9 is, or the square root of 9 is an improper radical, which we would just simplify as 3. So we'd say it's 5 times 3 times the square root of 3, or our 15 square root of 3. Thank you.